6 weeks after the dinner in the West Village, Sun Group Properties loses its third client in 30 days. Not quietly. The third client, a Boston real estate group that had been with Sun Group for 7 years, sends a termination letter on a Tuesday morning that is CC'd to 4 industry contacts, which is not an accident and which everyone in the building understands is not an accident. By noon, the letter has been forwarded 17 times within Manhattan's commercial real estate circle. By 3 in the afternoon, Soren has read it twice and is standing outside Kai's office deciding how to open the door. Kai already knows. He knew before the letter arrived because he is a man who tracks the things that matter to him, and the events division has mattered to him differently since November. Since the day he stood at the head of a boardroom table and said 4 words, he has been revising the cost of every day since. He is sitting at his desk when Soren comes in. The November numbers are on the screen. The December numbers are beside them. The January numbers are beside those. The line moves in one direction. It has been moving in that direction for 6 weeks without stopping. The Boston Group is the anchor client, Soren says. When they go, 2 of the mid-tier accounts follow. They always have. I know, Kai says. The replacement coordinator submitted her resignation this morning, Soren says. She cited the filing system. She said the institutional knowledge required to run the division was not documented anywhere, and she could not source it. Kai looks at the screen. It was never documented anywhere, he says. It was in her head. Soren says nothing. He does not need to. The silence between them carries exactly what neither of them is saying, which is that the person who built the system they are both standing in the wreckage of is across the city right now, in a shared workspace in Midtown, with 7 clients and a referral pipeline that has not stopped moving since November. My father called, Soren says carefully. Kai looks up. He wants a meeting. He says the division needs to be restructured. He has recommendations. Kai is quiet for a very long time. Outside, January Manhattan moves the way it always moves, loud, indifferent, relentless. The skyline through the 43rd floor windows looks exactly as it has always looked. Unchanged, unmoved. The kind of view that costs more than most people's houses and gives nothing back. Tell him, Kai says, that I am handling it. Soren nods once. And Soren, Kai says, find out who is coordinating the Meridian Group Gala next month. The one that used to be ours. Soren already knows. He has known since last week. Imani Cole, he says. Her firm won the contract 3 weeks ago. Kai looks at the screen for a long time. Then he closes the laptop. Good, he says. And Soren, who has worked beside this man for 9 years and knows exactly what that word means in exactly this tone, walks back out and quietly starts preparing for what comes next. Imani's firm is called Cole Strategy, not named after a feeling or a vision or a word that sounds impressive in a pitch meeting. Named after herself, because she had spent 14 months building something excellent inside someone else's name, and she was not doing that again. The logo is clean. The website has 7 words on the homepage, events that move people toward the right decision. That is all. No biography, no founder's story, no photograph, just the work. By January, she has 8 clients. The 8th is the Meridian Group, which is the largest private real estate portfolio in the Northeast, and which came to her not through a referral or a cold pitch, but through a phone call from a woman named Patricia Osei, who had attended a Sun Group gala 18 months ago and had never forgotten the way the evening moved, the way conversations happened that she had not planned for, the way she had left the room with 2 connections she had been trying to make for years. Patricia had asked the host who designed the flow of the evening. The host had said the name of the coordinator. Patricia had written it down and kept it. She called Imani in December. They met on a Thursday. Patricia offered the Meridian Gala contract on the Friday. Imani accepted on the Monday, not the Friday, because she reviewed the brief over the weekend and came back with 3 structural changes that would make the evening more effective, and she wanted Patricia to see those changes before she accepted, because she did not take contracts she could not improve. Patricia read the changes. She said, "This is exactly why I called you." Britta found out about the Meridian contract on a Tuesday evening when Imani came to her apartment in Harlem and sat at the kitchen table and opened her laptop and showed her the numbers. Britta looked at them for a long time. She looked at Imani. She said, "You did this in 63 days. 64, Imani said. Britta laughed. It was the kind of laugh that comes from somewhere deep, from relief and pride, and the specific emotion that has no clean name, which is what it feels like to watch someone you love do the thing they were always supposed to do. She got up and poured 2 glasses and brought them back to the table and set one in front of Imani and held hers up. To Cole's strategy, Britta said. To Cole's strategy, Imani said. They drank. Outside, Harlem moved through its January evening. People coming home, music from somewhere 2 floors down, the specific warmth of a neighborhood that does not care what floor your office is on. What Imani did not tell Britta that evening, not because she was keeping it, but because she was still turning it over, was that Soren had called that morning. He had said one thing before she could answer with anything. He came to the dinner. He watched the whole evening. He left at 10:15, and he has not stopped thinking about what he saw. Imani had thanked him. She had hung up. She had sat with her coffee for 6 minutes. Then she had opened her laptop and sent the Meridian contract back with her signature on it. Because whatever else was happening, the work came first. It always had. It always would. Chairman Sung arrives in New York for the second time in 3 months on a Wednesday in January. This time he does not call ahead. He does not make a reservation at a restaurant his son happens to own. He walks into the Sung Group building at 9 in the morning and takes the elevator to the 43rd floor and sits in Kai's office with the specific patience of a man who has never once in his professional life waited for anything and has decided that today he will make an exception because what he has to say requires a room and a closed door. Kai arrives at 9:15. He sees his father in the chair and his expression does not change. He sits across from him. He does not offer coffee. He does not begin. He waits, because he learned this particular strategy from the man sitting across from him, and he has never had more reason to use it. Chairman Sung looks at his son for a long moment. Then he sets a folder on the desk. Inside is the 3-month performance report for the events division, the one Kai has already read, the one with the line that moves in one direction. His father has annotated it. 3 pages of notes in the small, precise handwriting that Kai has been reading since childhood. The division is failing, Chairman Sung says. Yes, Kai says. The anchor client left Tuesday. Yes, Kai says. I have identified 3 candidates to rebuild the department. His father opens the folder to the 3rd page. All with strong credentials. All with references I have personally verified. Kai looks at the folder. He does not open it. No, he says. Chairman Sung looks at him. These are qualified candidates. I am sure they are, Kai says. The answer is still no. The office is very quiet. Outside, Manhattan continues at its January pace. The view from the 43rd floor is exactly what it has always been. Enormous, indifferent, expensive. You are going to go back to her, Chairman Sung says. Not a question. I am going to make this right, Kai says. Which is not the same thing, and I would ask you to understand the difference. She will not come back to Sung Group, his father says. I know, Kai says. Then what exactly do you intend to do? Kai looks at his father with a specific expression that has taken him 34 years to develop. The one that is neither confrontational nor compliant. That takes up exactly the space it occupies without performing anything. I intend, he says, to stop doing things that require me to fix them afterward. Chairman Sung is quiet for a long moment. He picks up the folder. He stands. He looks at his son one more time, not with the calculation that has been there every other time, but with something older and quieter than calculation. He leaves without another word. And Kai sits in his office on the 43rd floor and understands, for the first time since November, exactly what the next step is. Britta has been carrying something since October. Not November. October, which is a month before the boardroom, a month before Imani came to Harlem with 2 coffees and the specific expression that meant something large had happened and she was processing it by walking. October is when Britta first understood what was coming, because Britta is the kind of person who pays attention to the information people give her when they are not aware they are giving it. In October, Imani had started working late. Not the productive late she had always worked, the kind that means a deadline is close and the work is good and she is inside it. A different kind. The kind that means something at work is shifting and you are staying in the building, because leaving means going home and thinking about it. She had mentioned Kai's name 3 times in casual conversation in ways that were not casual. She had told Britta, in the course of a completely different conversation about a restaurant they were trying, that he had said her name correctly on the first day and every day after it. She had said it like a fact, like information, like something she had filed. Britta had filed it too. She does not know yet that she already knows. What Britta had not said in October or November or in any of the 64 days since was this. She had been at the Sung Group building the Wednesday before the boardroom. Not to see Imani. She had a meeting with a client 2 blocks away, and she had gone to the lobby to use the bathroom, and she had seen, through the glass of the ground floor conference room, Chairman Sung sitting across from a man in a gray suit that she did not recognize. She would not have remembered it except that the man in the gray suit slid a photograph across the table, and Chairman Sung looked at it and nodded, and the photograph was of Imani, taken outside the building, on a Thursday evening when Imani was leaving late. Britta had stood in the lobby for 3 seconds, and then walked to the bathroom, and stood at the sink, and told herself she had misread it. She had not misread it. She had said nothing because she had no proof of anything except a photograph and a nod and the specific coldness that had moved through her in that lobby. She had said nothing because Imani had already built Cole's strategy and it was working, and saying it now would mean asking Imani to look back into something she had chosen to walk away from cleanly. She had said nothing because she was afraid of what it would cost Imani to know that the targeting had begun a full week before the boardroom. She tells Imani on a Thursday evening in January, at the kitchen table in Harlem, over 2 glasses that are no longer cold. She tells her everything. And Imani listens with the complete stillness of a woman who has just received a piece of information that does not change what she built, but changes everything about why she had to build it. Imani does not react the way Britta expects. She does not get angry, not visibly. Not in the way that would make Britta feel she had done the right thing by waiting or the wrong thing by waiting or any of the things she has been turning over since October. She sits with it the way she sits with everything structural, finding where the load is actually carried, where the pressure points are, what the information changes, and what it does not. What it changes. She now knows that Chairman Sung had her photographed before the boardroom, that the decision to remove her was not reactive but planned. That the conversation his father had with Kai that Thursday in November was not an ultimatum about a relationship. It was the activation of a plan that had been building for at least a week before that. What it does not change. She built Cole's strategy in 64 days. She has 8 clients. The Meridian Gala is in 6 weeks. The work is good and it is hers, and it does not require anyone's permission to continue existing. She looks at Britta across the kitchen table. You saw this in October, she says. Yes, Britta says. Her hands are flat on the table. And you said nothing because you thought it would pull me back before I had built something that was mine, Imani says. Yes, Britta says. Imani nods slowly. She is quiet for a moment. Then she says, the woman at Sung Group who processed my termination paperwork. Do you know if she is still there? Britta blinks. Yes. I think so. Why? Because I need to know if the termination was processed under Chairman Sung's authority or Kai's, Imani says. That is a different document, a different signature block, a different legal chain. She looks at Britta. It matters. Britta stares at her. You're not thinking about suing them. I am thinking about understanding exactly what happened, Imani says. Because Kai told me his father came to him and told him to end it. But if the photograph was taken a week before that conversation, if the termination was initiated under his father's authority without Kai's knowledge, then what Kai told me at the restaurant was true in the way he understood it and incomplete in the way it actually happened. She pauses. and I would like to know which version I am living in. Britta looks at her for a long moment. Then she says, "You're not angry." "I am very angry," Imani says, clearly and without drama. "I am just not going to be stupid about it." She picks up her glass. She finishes it. She sets it down. "Call your contact at the building. The one who handles facilities. She knows everything that happens in that building, and she always has." Britta picks up her phone. "And Britta," Imani says. "Yes. Thank you for telling me tonight." She looks at her friend. "I know what it cost you to hold it." The answer comes back in 48 hours. Britta's contact at the Sun Group building. A woman named Cheryl who has managed the facilities desk for 11 years and who sees every document that moves through the building's administrative system because she is the one who routes them, confirms what Imani suspected. The termination paperwork for Imani Cole was initiated on a Monday morning. The boardroom happened on the following Tuesday. The initiating signature on the termination document is not Kai Sung's. It is his father's, countersigned by Kai, which means Kai knew the paperwork was coming, but initiated by Chairman Sung, processed through the chairman's executive authority, and routed through HR under a clause that allowed the senior executive to override departmental decisions without prior notice to the division head. Kai had not fired Imani. His father had fired Imani. Kai had signed the counter signature the night before the boardroom, which means the conversation in the boardroom was not Kai acting on his father's instruction. It was Kai delivering, in public, in front of 12 witnesses, a decision that his father had already made official on paper 24 hours earlier. Imani sits with this for a full day. She works. She takes 2 client calls. She reviews the Meridian event brief. She goes home and makes dinner and eats it at her kitchen table and looks at the succulent on the windowsill, the one she wrapped in printer paper on her way out of the Sun Group building. And she thinks about a man who arrived at a bar at 6 o'clock exactly and watched an entire evening of her work with the specific attention of someone who understands that what they are watching took everything. On Friday morning, she calls Soren. He answers immediately. "I need to speak with Kai," she says. "Not in public. Not at a restaurant I chose for a reason. Somewhere neutral." His suggestion. Soren is quiet for a moment. "When?" he says. "Saturday," she says. "Morning." "I will tell him," Soren says. "And Soren," she says, "tell him I have seen the termination document. Tell him I know whose signature initiated it. I am not saying this to threaten anything. I am saying it because I want him to walk into that conversation knowing that I know, so we do not spend the first 20 minutes working up to it." There is a long pause on the line. "I will tell him," Soren says. She hangs up. She opens her laptop. She goes back to the Meridian brief. The work is there. It is always there. It does not wait for anyone to finish resolving the things that happen around it. But for the first time since November, she feels something shift in the specific way things shift when a picture you have been looking at partially finally comes fully into focus, and you realize that what you thought was the edge of it was actually the center. Kai chooses a hotel lobby near Grand Central. Not a restaurant. Not a private room. An open public lobby with good sight lines and comfortable chairs, and the specific ambient noise of a busy midtown hotel on a Saturday morning that makes intimate conversation possible without making it visible. He is there at 9. Not early, not late. Exactly 9, because she told him she was coming and he is done with the performance of calculated arrivals. She arrives at 9:02. She is wearing her own coat, carrying her own bag, moving at the specific pace that he has been cataloging since the day he walked into a boardroom and ended something he did not fully understand he was ending. She finds him at the table by the window. She sits. She does not order anything immediately. She looks at him. "You know I saw the document," she says. "Soren told me last night," he says. "Then you know your father initiated it," she says. "Yes," he says. "And you signed the counter signature the night before the boardroom." "Yes," he says. He does not flinch from any of it. He has had 18 hours to prepare for this conversation, and he has spent all of them in exactly the same place he always ends up, which is with the truth, which is the only version that has ever worked with her. "My father told me the paperwork was being processed." He told me that my counter-signature was required for the termination to be legally complete. He did not tell me the termination had already been initiated under his authority. I believed I was making the decision. I was countersigning a decision that had already been made. Imani looks at him. She is very still. So when you walked into that boardroom, she says. I believed I was the one doing it, he says. I was the last signature. The last step. In my understanding, I was the decision. He pauses. I was not the decision. I was the execution of someone else's. The hotel lobby moves around them. A family at check-in. A businessman on his phone. The ordinary Saturday morning of a city that does not stop for anything. Imani looks at the window. She looks back at him. That does not make it better, she says. I know, he says. It makes it different, she says. Better and different are not the same thing. I know, he says. She is quiet for a moment. Your father had me photographed a week before that conversation in the penthouse, she says. He had already decided before he came to you. The conversation was not him asking you to make a choice. It was him telling you what he had already done and requiring your signature to make it final. Kai is very still. I did not know about the photograph, he says. I know you didn't, she says. That is why I am sitting here. What Kai does next is not planned and not calculated and is, in fact, the first thing he has done in 3 months that is neither of those things. He calls his father on Saturday evening from his apartment. Not to report, not to update, not to manage the information. He calls because what Imani told him in the hotel lobby that morning has been moving through him for 8 hours, and he has run it from every angle and arrived at the same place every time, which is that his father did not give him a choice. His father presented him with a completed action and required his participation and called it a decision. Chairman Sung answers on the third ring. His voice is the same as it always is, measured, unhurried. The voice of a man who has never once in his life been surprised by a phone call. Kai says, You had her photographed before you came to me. A pause. I gathered information, his father says. That is what I do. You told me I was making the decision, Kai says. You told me I could end it cleanly or you would handle it. You did not tell me you had already handled it. You did not tell me the termination was already initiated. You let me walk into that boardroom believing I was acting. I was not acting. I was signing. The outcome was the same, his father says. The outcome is not the same, Kai says. His voice is completely level. The voice his father taught him. The outcome is that I spent 3 months believing I had made a choice that cost me something. I did not make a choice. You made a choice and required my name on it. And I signed it because I trusted that what you showed me was complete. Another pause. Longer this time. I protected you, his father says. From what? Kai says. From a woman who rebuilt your events division from 40% to 81% in 14 months. From the first person in my professional life who did not want anything from my position. From something that was working. His voice does not rise. You did not protect me from a threat. You protected yourself from something you could not control, and you used my name to do it. The silence that follows is the longest one. Outside Kai's apartment, Manhattan does what it always does. The park is dark below the window. The city is loud and indifferent and enormous. I have been in this business for 40 years, his father says finally. I have never been wrong about a liability. She was not a liability, Kai says. She was the most capable person in the building. She proved that by leaving. I have the numbers on my screen right now. They prove it every day. He hangs up. He sets the phone down. He sits in his apartment on a Saturday evening and understands, clearly and without drama, that the conversation he just had will cost his relationship with his father something that may not be recoverable. And he sits with that cost the way she has taught him to sit with things, not removing the emotion, not calculating the variables, just letting it be exactly as heavy as it is. The Meridian Group Gala is on a Friday evening in February. Imani has been building it for 6 weeks. The venue in Tribeca that she sourced herself, the flow of the evening designed, so that the 3 conversations Patricia Osei most needs to happen will happen naturally before 9 o'clock. The lighting calibrated to make the room feel warmer than it is. The catering sequenced so that the second course arrives at the exact moment people have finished the first real exchange and are ready to move into the second. She has done all of this the way she does everything, from structure outward, starting with what the room needs to produce and working backward to what produces it. Britta is there, not as a guest, as herself, which means she is at the back of the room watching the whole evening with the specific satisfaction of someone who has watched this woman build something and is now watching it run. Britta has her own news, which she has been carrying since January, and which she will tell Imani after the event, because tonight belongs to Cole's strategy and Britta understands timing. Kai arrives at 7:15. Not at the door, at the bar, where Imani is checking the service setup before guests begin arriving in volume. She sees him come in. She finishes the check she is making. Then she walks to the bar. She stands beside him the way she has stood beside him twice before, at the West Village event and in the hotel lobby, with the specific composure of a woman who knows exactly where she is and has chosen to be there. "You came," she says. "You didn't say not to," he says. She looks at him. He looks back. "I know what your father did," she says. "I know what you didn't know. I know what you did know. I have been through all of it, and I know the difference." She pauses. "I am not interested in relitigating any of it tonight." "Then what are you interested in?" he says. She looks at the room she has built. The guests are arriving now. Patricia Osei near the entrance, already in a conversation that looks exactly like the conversation the evening was designed to produce. The lighting is exactly right. The flow is working. Everything in this room is exactly where it should be, and it got there because she put it there. "I am interested," she says, "in building things that work. I am interested in rooms that move people toward the right decision. I am interested in what it looks like when two people stop performing certainty they don't have and start being honest about what they actually want." She looks at him. "That is what I am interested in." He is quiet for a moment. "Then I have one question," he says. "Ask it," she says. "Is there room in what you're building," he says, "for someone who is done making decisions that require 3 months of fixing?" She looks at him for a long moment. The room moves around them. The evening she built is running exactly as it should. And somewhere at the back of the room Britta is watching and already knows the answer before Imani gives it. "Stay for the dinner," Imani says. "Watch how it works." He picks up his water. He turns toward the room. And this time, unlike the West Village, unlike every room before it, he is not watching what she built from the outside. He is standing in it. A guest. On her terms. Exactly where she put him. March arrives the way it always arrives in New York. Without apology, still cold. The city still loud and indifferent and relentless. But something in it has shifted. Not dramatically. Not with announcement. The way things shift when two people who have been doing things the hard way finally stop and build something on the ground they both agree is solid. Cole's strategy signs its 10th client on a Tuesday in March. Imani does not celebrate. She notes it in the spreadsheet. She moves to the next item on the list. Then she closes the laptop and goes to the window and looks at the street below. Her workspace, her city, her name on the LLC that nobody can take from her because she built it herself on 64 days and 8 clients and 1 succulent, and the specific stubbornness of a woman who does not rebuild from nothing twice without understanding exactly what she is standing on. Britta tells her the news on Wednesday. Britta has been offered a position running the community programming division at a cultural foundation in Harlem. Real work, funded work, the kind that lets her build something of her own in the neighborhood she has been a part of for 8 years. She tells Imani at the kitchen table the same way she has told her everything that matters, directly, over food, without preamble. Imani looks at her for a long moment. Then she says, "When do you start?" "April 1st, Britta says. "That is not an accident," Imani says. Britta laughs. It is the deep one again. The relief and pride, and the thing with no clean name. They stay at the table until midnight talking about everything and nothing. About what April looks like for both of them. About what it means to build something in a city that does not care whether you succeed. about the specific satisfaction of rooms that worked the way they were supposed to work. The same kitchen table where Imani opened her laptop 64 days after the boardroom and started coal strategy from nothing. It is still the same table. The work that happened at it is not the same at all. Chairman Sung calls Kai in March. Kai answers. His father says very little. He says that the events division is being restructured under new leadership and that he will not be involved in the operational decisions going forward. He says it the way he says things that cost him something, which is without decoration and without pause. Kai thanks him. He means it. It is not forgiveness. It is acknowledgement. The difference matters. Kai is in Boston the following weekend. Not for any reason except that Naomi, whose story is an entirely different one that deserves its own telling, is not the reason. The reason is that Imani has a client meeting in the morning and he is in the chair by the window in her studio, which is not her studio but a workspace 2 streets from her apartment where she takes early calls when she needs to think. He is holding coffee. She made it without asking which cup was his because she knows by now. He made it without asking the second time. These are the small things. The ones that do not announce themselves. The ones that simply settle, the way real things settle, between two people who have decided, without ceremony, without a conversation about deciding, that the building continues. Outside, New York moves the way it always moves. Loud, indifferent, relentless. It did not care about a woman who smiled on her way out of a boardroom and built something better on the other side of that door. It never did. Some things do not need a city to care. Some things just need two people who finally understand the difference between a decision and an execution, and who have chosen, with full information, to keep showing up. If part 2 was worth the wait, subscribe and turn on your notifications because the next story is already waiting. Drop a comment and tell me, which moment in part 2 stopped you? Was it Britta finally telling Imani what she saw in October? The termination document, and whose signature was actually on it? Or stay for the dinner? The second time she said it, and what it meant this time. And vote. Should the next story be Britta's? She starts her foundation job in April, and she has been carrying things nobody has asked about. Or should we follow Chairman Sung to California and find out what it looks like when a man who has been right about everything for 40 years finally has to sit with being wrong? You decide. I will be here.